Imagine for a moment you're alone in a quiet room. Soft light streams through the window, past the curtains, and you feel that unmistakable sense of expectation in the air, like something out of the ordinary is about to happen. Close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. In the background, hear a faint, almost imperceptible hum, one that seems not to belong to this world. Suddenly, a different presence, subtle and profoundly intelligent, makes itself known. It's not fear or surprise. It's as if, for a brief moment, you've gained access to a very ancient memory, a recollection of something that's always been here, just waiting for you to pay attention. Have you ever felt at some point that there was something beyond what our eyes can see? Has it ever happened that on a silent night, looking at the star-studded sky, a curious feeling arose within you that we're not alone? What if I told you there are ancient accounts of contact with beings who are not from this planet, but who, instead of wanting to dominate us, wish to share an ancestral secret about who we truly are? Do you feel like knowing more? Before we dive into this mystery, I want to propose a challenge. If, at any point during this video, you feel your perception expand or are touched by an idea, pause the video for a second, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments. What was the moment that impacted you the most? Your engagement isn't just important for the channel. It can be the starting point for a collective awakening movement, built by people who, like you, seek meaning beyond the obvious. Now, close your eyes one more time, because our journey is just beginning. Visualize yourself lying in a room, with light filtering through your eyelids, in a state between sleep and wakefulness. It's at this threshold, where the conscious mind floats and thoughts become ethereal, that the boundaries between reality and mystery become almost invisible. Now allow yourself to ask, how many of your thoughts truly originated within you, and how many were whispered by the unknown? In this journey, we'll cross portals of time and consciousness to explore one of the most mysterious and controversial phenomena recorded, the supposed influence of extraterrestrial beings, known as Arcturians, on humanity's life and spiritual evolution. Get ready to question everything, from what you see to what you feel. Imagine that, while many believe we are alone in the universe, ancient archives, forgotten accounts, and modern research converge on a blind spot in our history, the veiled presence of cosmic intelligences, observing, guiding, and who knows, awakening a dormant spark of potential within us. But the truth is, how far are you willing to go to discover what exists beyond the veil of everyday reality? In the early 20th century, in a small town in the American countryside, a young man with an unusual gift began to attract the attention of neighbors and scientists. Edgar Cayce, a humble photographer, son of farmers, living in seemingly ordinary life, harbored an extraordinary ability to enter a deep trance state and access information about people, diseases, and events he had never witnessed. His nickname? The Sleeping Prophet. Imagine Edgar in the gloom of his photographic studio, leaning back in a simple chair covered by a worn blanket. Absolute silence. A small crowd gathers around, anxious for what's about to happen. Slowly his eyes close, his breathing deepens, and his voice changes, as if another consciousness were speaking through him. During his more than 14,000 recorded trances, Cayce narrated visions about the origin of humanity, healings never before recorded by medicine, and encounters with beings of light from distant places, not just from other continents, but from other dimensions. His charisma lay in his simplicity. He sought neither fame nor fortune. He simply served as a channel, a translator of the invisible. Have you ever wondered why some people seem connected to knowledge that isn't learned from books? Have you ever felt, looking into someone's eyes, that there's a silent wisdom waiting to be discovered? Cayce was that kind of person, humble, approachable, and at the same time, unfathomable. He became unintentionally a bridge between worlds. It was in his accounts that, for the first time, we heard clear mention of beings known as the Arcturians. But who are they? And why, among so many possibilities, did they choose to manifest to a simple man of rural origin? Perhaps because truth isn't revealed to those who seek power, but to those who seek meaning. And here's the question. What if the next link between our species and the great universal mystery isn't a famous scientist, but you? What would change in your life if you knew you could be the next channel for lost wisdom? Now pause for a moment and look around. What do you see? Objects, walls, lights, shadows. All these are constructions of your brain trying to decipher a reality that is, in fact, much larger than we can comprehend. What if I told you that among the invisible layers of this very ordinary daily life, there exists a network of consciences, observing, protecting, and at certain moments, subtly intervening in our collective destiny? Arcturians are described in countless esoteric traditions and channelers' accounts as highly evolved light beings, carriers of genuine compassion and technology unimaginable to us. They don't come with war spacecraft or invade our cities. On the contrary, they appear in visions, lucid dreams, deep, meditative states, and even in near-death experiences, when consciousness is freer from the shackles of the physical body. According to various accounts, these beings have been observing humanity for millennia, not as gods, but as silent guardians. They don't take away our free will or control us. They only suggest, inspire, awaken. They would be, according to Cayce, representatives of a stellar fraternity dedicated to the evolution of worlds, invisible architects of a grand cosmic symphony, where every planet, every species, every soul has a fundamental role. But why Arcturus? Why, among billions of stars, do the accounts converge on this bright blue point, located 36 light-years from Earth? Ancient civilizations looked to Arcturus and saw in it a guiding star, a beacon for spiritual navigators. According to shamanic traditions, it was through Arcturus that souls traveled after death, before reincarnating again. Is it coincidence or a clue deliberately left for our inner search? And in this suspense, questions arise that still have no answer. Who are the Arcturians, really? Why did they choose to connect with us, such a young and often self-destructive civilization? Are they a mirror for what we can become, or a reminder of what we once were in other forgotten eras? Before we continue, I want to know, what do you think? Leave it in the comments. Do you believe in extraterrestrial influences in human history, or do you think it's all just the fruit of collective imagination? Your opinion is the fuel that makes this space exist. Here, the story takes a turn. Imagine that, before you were born, you were before a council of light beings, deciding with them the challenges, encounters, and lessons that would be part of your life on Earth. This concept, known as a soul contract, goes beyond the notion of destiny. We are not victims of random circumstances, but co-authors of a carefully written script between dimensions. According to accounts of regression, near-death experiences, and channels like Edgar Cayce, the Arcturians would act as cosmic notaries, witnesses, and instructors in this process. They guide, question, suggest, and above all, respect the choices of each soul, even those that will result in pain, suffering, or loss. Because they know, without experience, there is no evolution. Imagine for a moment, what if every pain you've ever felt, every loss, was just a reminder that you are exactly where you're supposed to be? And what if the improbable encounters, the loves that crossed your path, and even the failures, were essential parts of a larger puzzle, something that only reveals itself when you give up control and allow yourself to trust? The idea of a soul contract doesn't serve to take away your power, but to give it back. It challenges you to step out of the victim role and take center stage. Why me? Why now? Are questions that now carry a different weight. If your life is a script and you are both the actor and the writer, what choices would you make starting today? Hold your answer. Keep that restlessness, because the full revelation about the soul contract and its developments will come later, and you won't want to miss it. If this idea moved you, remember our agreement. Like, leave your opinion, and share this video. This way, we nourish this invisible network of seekers together. Now, close your eyes again and imagine, in a vast hall of bluish light, tall, slender beings with translucent skin, immense and deep eyes like cosmic lakes, glide silently. They don't need to speak. Their emotions, thoughts, and intentions are transmitted by subtle waves, like music felt before it's heard. This is how many visionaries and channelers describe the Arcturians. Think of the contrast. While we struggle to hide feelings or feign emotions, these beings simply are. Their communication happens through telepathy, based on pure emotional transparency. There's no room for deceit, manipulation, or fear of judgment. They say that truth is the only real currency among evolved species. Imagine living in a world like that, where every thought is accepted, welcomed, understood. How would your life change if you no longer needed to hide who you are? The accounts describe that Arcturians don't have dense bodies like ours, but rather very flexible bioenergetic structures, sometimes described as beams of light. Their skin reflects bluish or violet tones, depending on the vibrational frequency they choose to manifest at that moment. They feed on pure light, prana, chi, vital energy, not physical matter. This brings an immediate question: what is truly necessary to sustain life? Arcturian mythology, according to Cayce and other channels, speaks of floating cities where everything is designed to harmonize and elevate consciousness. There's no competition, only collaboration. Every being discovers their calling and lives it fully, because there's no scarcity, envy, or fear of loss. The very idea of loss doesn't exist in their culture. Everything is in flux, everything is exchange. It's curious to think that in Arcturus, all colors, sounds, and forms have a therapeutic purpose. Every detail of the landscape, floating crystals, suspended gardens, currents of luminous energy, are created to heal, inspire, and expand perception. If you could spend a day in that world, what would you like to ask? What part of yourself would you like to heal or transform? And here's a mental challenge. Try to imagine for a minute that everything you see around you, objects, people, situations, are expressions of frequencies, and that you can choose which ones to tune into. What would your frequency be right now? Perhaps by now you're asking yourself, isn't all this just fantasy? And where does science fit into this story? You're not alone. Skepticism is a healthy instinct. After all, seeking concrete proof is part of our collective maturing. But what if I told you that authoritative voices in science have also hinted at the existence of intelligences beyond our planet? A striking example is Dr. Lana Morrow, an internationally recognized neuroscientist specializing in brain potential and altered states of consciousness. At a recent conference, Morrow shared a unique case study. Patients in deep meditative states, reporting contact with beings they described, without knowing about each other, with the same characteristics as the Arcturians. What's more, brain activity scans performed during these sessions revealed brainwave patterns never before catalogued, areas of hypercoherence and hemispheric synchronicity that defy conventional explanations. Another impactful case comes from the Monroe Institute, famous for research into out-of-body experiences and multidimensional consciousness. There, dozens of documented accounts point to guided encounters in environments that correspond to the description of Arcturian cities. Halls of light, tall beings, teachings about the nature of the soul and the meaning of existence. Still in the field of astrophysics, names like Carl Sagan and Michio Kaku have publicly stated, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Several respected astronomers argue that, in a universe with trillions of galaxies, the existence of advanced civilizations is almost a mathematical certainty. The question isn't whether they exist, but when, and at what level, they will choose to manifest to us. Testimonies from ordinary people are also multiplying. Accounts of recurring dreams with blue beings, encounters in meditation where they receive practical advice to overcome blockages, spontaneous healings attributed to energies coming from outside. What's really happening? Collective hallucination, an unconscious archetype, or evidence of an ancient and forgotten relationship? Modern psychology teaches us that often we need to see to believe, but it's wise to remember that science's greatest advancements were once born from hypotheses considered absurd in their time. What do you feel when you hear these accounts? Doubt, fascination, fear? How would you explain the coincidences, visions, and synchronicities you've experienced in your own life? Perhaps it's time to open up the field of the possible a little more and admit, some truths reveal themselves only to those who dare to ask. And you, how far are you willing to investigate, even if it challenges everything you've always believed? Now, imagine yourself in front of a special mirror, not one that reflects your appearance, but one that reveals your essence. What do you see? Fears, dreams, doubts, potential? According to contact accounts and Edgar Cayce's readings, this is exactly what the Arcturians do. They serve as a universal mirror for us. While humanity still struggles with wars, divisions, and prejudices, these beings seem to have overcome duality. For them, there is no us versus them, but a sense of cosmic unity, where every form of life is seen as an extension of a single universal consciousness. What does this mean in practice? Imagine that your pain, your anger, your love, and your joy are felt on some level by all beings everywhere in the universe. One of the most repeated teachings by Arcturian channels is, you are not a human being seeking a spiritual experience, but rather a spiritual being having a human experience. This inversion of perspective changes everything. What for us is labeled as failure, for them is just learning. What for us is suffering, for them is an expansion of consciousness. However, there are common points: curiosity, the ability to create, the desire to evolve. Arcturians value free will above all else. They don't interfere, they only suggest paths. They respect every choice, no matter how chaotic it seems, because they believe that true evolution is born from chaos, from experience, from pain, from error, and from overcoming. But there's something they see that we're still crawling to perceive: the radical interdependence of everything and everyone. In their culture, there's no separation between spirituality and science, between technology and emotion. The ultimate goal isn't profit or control, but the full flourishing of the being in all its aspects. Imagine living in such a society, and here's the big provocation. Could it be that we seek in spirituality an escape from pain when we could see it as a tool for growth? Could it be that suffering so feared is in fact the necessary impulse for our transformation? And what if evolution isn't reaching a better place, but becoming someone more conscious with each fall and restart? Connect this to your life. What patterns do you repeat? What beliefs have you accepted out of fear or habit? What would you like to change, but are waiting for a sign from the universe to start? Perhaps this message is already the sign you've been waiting for. Remember, you are part of an ancestral chain, a cosmic lineage that pulses from the first stars within every cell of your being. With every decision, every act of courage, you honor this legacy and invite the new. And who knows, in some dimension, the Arcturians are observing, cheering, awaiting humanity's next great leap, the leap that can begin now with a simple choice of yours. If these ideas resonated with you, leave your comment, share your questions and experiences. This space is our consciousness laboratory. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. In the next segment, we'll explore how the Arcturians view life, death, and evolution, and what we can learn to leave fear behind. Stay until the end. Imagine for a moment that death isn't a period, but just a comma in a much larger sentence, a bridge to a next chapter where you don't get lost but transform. Think of the feeling of having reached the peak of a difficult journey, of a seemingly insurmountable challenge, and suddenly realizing that the trip continues only on another level, as if you moved rooms in a grand cosmic theater. According to Edgar Cayce's readings and the teachings attributed to the Arcturians, death is not a punishment, nor even a loss, but a natural process of transition, as important as birth itself. They describe the experience of death not as a rupture, but as an expansion. At that moment, consciousness loosens from the ties of the physical body, the same way a bird loosens from a cage and blends with the wind. Imagine seeing your entire existence, every act, every emotion, on a kind of multidimensional screen, not to be judged but to be understood. According to the Arcturians, this is the instant when illusions vanish and the true self emerges. Pains are shown as lessons. Mistakes reveal the path to progress, and love lived, however small, shines as the essence of everything you are. For these beings, there is no fear of death because they understand that consciousness is indestructible and expansive. The body is just a temporary instrument. The soul, however, is eternal, traveling through different planes, changing form, but never ceasing to exist. Death, for them, is like changing clothes, a cycle of renewal, an invitation to experience new dimensions and learn what only freedom can teach. Why is this concept so difficult for us? Perhaps because, here on Earth, we cling to everything material, forgetting that most of who we are is beyond what can be touched. So the Arcturians invite us. What if you dared to live as if you were eternal, not in the sense of denying loss, but of understanding that every farewell is in fact a reinvention? What if every end in your life, a relationship, a job, an unfulfilled dream, was just a passage to a better version of yourself. What would change? Would fear lose its grip? Would courage flourish? Try for a day to think not in terms of losses, but transformations. Feel on your skin the power of detachment, and discover the lightness of someone who already understands that nothing truly leaves, everything reinvents itself. So far, we've explored mysteries, crossed portals of consciousness, learned about advanced civilizations, and rethought our understanding of life, death, and purpose. The burning question is, what does all this change in your daily life? Between breakfast and city traffic, between paying bills and realizing dreams? The Arcturians, according to channelings and contact accounts, aren't content with inspiring theories. They challenge people to translate wisdom into action. They would teach, for example, that everything you do, feel, and choose reverberates in the collective. Every thought you have is at the same time private and universal. Every act of courage, kindness, and self-knowledge is like a thread of light weaving the great tapestry of universal consciousness. Let's bring this into your reality. Have you ever felt that small decisions radically change the course of your life? Have you noticed how a word of yours, positive or negative, can deeply affect someone else's day? This is the essence of collective consciousness. We are not separate. Each of us is responsible for sowing the universe we wish to reap. Arcturians encourage the practice of self-observation. Upon waking, ask yourself simple questions. How can I serve today? Where is love in this moment? What can I learn from this challenge? Transform small actions into rituals of expansion. Consciously smile at a stranger. Recognize your fear and welcome it as a disguised ally. Try meditating, even if only for 5 minutes, feeling your own body pulse like an antenna connected to the infinite. They also suggest, according to accounts, the exercise of the soul contract. Review your journey, accept your conscious and unconscious choices, and ask yourself, what am I learning right now? If I could rewrite the next chapters, how would I want them to be? This reflection awakens the power of protagonism. You stop being a victim and become a co-author of your own destiny. Living in the light of this new understanding is revolutionary. You start to notice synchronicities, receive clearer intuitions, feel less isolated, and more part of a large, vibrant network. Gradually, your daily life ceases to be mere survival and becomes a conscious pursuit of evolution, for yourself, for others, for all that exists. If any of these ideas touched your heart, I invite you to strengthen our community. Like this video, subscribe, share in the comments how you'll bring this awareness into your daily life. And remember, when you change, the entire universe reorganizes around you. We've reached the end of this script, but if you've noticed, it was built like a circle, not a line. Just like the cycles of nature, consciousness also spins, spirals, returns to itself, and reinvents itself. What did you feel as you went through these stories, these images and provocations? Was there a moment when you realized that, deep down, you already knew all this, like an ancient secret waiting to be awakened? Now imagine looking in the mirror and seeing not just your face, but all the lives you've touched, all the dreams you've nurtured, and all the possibilities that still pulse in your soul. The journey doesn't end here, it's just beginning. Because, as the Arcturians taught, every end is just a portal to a new beginning, and every search, even a frustrated one, is in fact a disguised answer. Of all we've experienced here, one choice remains. Do you want to continue as a passive observer of your own destiny, or choose to be the protagonist, the author of the next chapter of your own evolution? There's no right or wrong answer, only paths. But remember, every step, however small, reverberates throughout the entire universe. If any part of this video touched you, share your story in the comments. If you felt a call to this journey of self-knowledge, subscribe to the channel because this community was created for seekers like you, people who feel, intuit, and dare to ask, what if there's something more? Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to access more stories like this. Together we can create a current of consciousness, each adding their intention, knowledge, and curiosity. Because deep down, we all share the same destiny. To awaken to who we truly are and, who knows, perhaps reunite with our light brethren along the way. See you in the next video. And remember, the great adventure isn't discovering Arcturus, but exploring the infinite universe that exists within you.